A Clockwork Orange. A Clockwork Orange, a 1971 dystopian crime film directed by Stanley Kubrick, is based on Anthony Burgess's novel. The film explores themes of free will, state control, and the nature of good and evil through the story of Alex, a charismatic but violent youth in a futuristic Britain who undergoes an experimental aversion therapy to cure his delinquent behavior. The film's explicit depiction of youth violence, including scenes of group misconduct and other transgressions, alongside its critical examination of societal control mechanisms, sparked intense public debate and controversy. In the United Kingdom, where the film garnered significant media attention and was controversially linked by some to instances of real-life misconduct, director Stanley Kubrick personally withdrew the film from distribution in 1973 after receiving threats against his family. It remained unavailable in the UK for 27 years until after Kubrick's death in 1999. Beyond the UK, the film faced outright bans in countries like Ireland, South Africa, and Singapore for varying periods due to its graphic content and challenging themes. Its complex portrayal of human nature and societal response made it one of the most talked about and restricted films of its era, demonstrating the power of cinema to provoke strong reactions and censorship. A Serbian Film, a 2010 Serbian exploitation horror film directed by Srđan Spasojević, is an extremely controversial work that garnered widespread condemnation and bans for its explicit and disturbing content. The film tells the story of Miloš, a retired adult film star who agrees to participate in an art film to provide for his family, only to find himself drawn into a horrific world of extreme acts, including non-consensual acts and other depraved acts, often involving children. The director stated the film was a metaphor for the horrors and corruption within post-war Serbia. However, its unflinching and graphic depiction of severe violence, particularly its inclusion of acts against children, was universally denounced as indefensible and purely exploitative. Upon its release, a Serbian film was immediately banned in numerous countries, including Spain, Norway, Brazil, Australia, and New Zealand. In many other countries, like the United Kingdom and Canada, it was heavily censored, with significant portions removed to make it legally distributable, often resulting in dozens of cuts. The film's content was so extreme that it led to legal charges and criminal investigations in some jurisdictions. It remains one of the most notorious and widely banned films of the 21st century, sparking intense debates about freedom of expression versus moral boundaries in cinema. Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust, a 1980 Italian found-footage horror film directed by Ruggero Deodato, is infamous for its graphic content and the controversies that led to its widespread banning. The film purports to be a recovered documentary detailing the disappearance of a film crew in the Amazon rainforest who were making a documentary about cannibalistic tribes. It showcases extremely graphic and realistic depictions of violence, including fictional acts against humans and genuine acts against animals, which sparked immediate and intense backlash. Upon its initial release, the film was seized and banned in Italy, and Deodato was arrested and charged with obscenity and even murder, as authorities believed the on-screen deaths were real. He was later acquitted after proving that the actors were alive and well. However, the graphic animal acts, which were authentic, led to lasting legal repercussions and condemnation. Cannibal Holocaust was subsequently banned in over 50 countries, including the UK, Australia, and many others, due to its extreme violence, disturbing content, and the actual animal cruelty depicted. It is often cited as one of the most censored films in history, a testament to its boundary-pushing content and the moral outrage it provoked globally. The film's use of the found-footage style also predated and influenced many later horror films, further solidifying its controversial legacy. Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom, a 1975 Italian-French art film directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini, is arguably one of the most controversial films ever made. It is loosely based on Marquis de Sade's 1785 novel and set in the Republic of Salò, a Nazi puppet state in fascist Italy during World War II. The film depicts 4 wealthy, corrupt libertines who abduct 18 teenagers and subject them to 120 days of extreme physical, psychological, and sexual torment. Pasolini intended the film as a scathing allegory of consumerism, political power, and the dehumanizing nature of fascism, using extreme depictions to shock and provoke thought. However, its explicit and unsimulated portrayal of abuse, torture, and degradation was widely condemned as gratuitous and morally reprehensible. The film was immediately banned in numerous countries upon its release, including Italy, where it remained prohibited for many years, Australia, New Zealand, and several others due to its graphic content. Even in countries where it was eventually released, it often faced severe cuts and restrictions, receiving the most restrictive ratings possible. The film remains deeply divisive, viewed by some as a profound work of art exposing the horrors of totalitarianism, and by others as an indefensible piece of material. Its extreme nature ensured its place as a perpetually banned and heavily scrutinized film in cinema history. Freaks. A 1932 American horror film directed by Todd Browning is a unique and unsettling production. The film tells the story of circus sideshow performers, many of whom were actual performers with physical differences, and a trapeze artist who attempts to exploit one of them. The film intended to explore themes of outer beauty versus inner character, showing the freaks as sympathetic and honorable while the normal people are often cruel and deceptive. However, the use of real sideshow performers and the film's climactic scene, where the exploited performers take a dark retribution against the trapeze artist, was deemed too shocking and grotesque for audiences of its time. Upon its initial release, Freaks faced severe backlash, with audiences reportedly walking out of screenings and some theaters refusing to show it. It was drastically cut from its original 90-minute runtime and banned in several countries, including the United Kingdom, for over 30 years due to its disturbing content. In the United States, it was effectively pulled from distribution and became a notorious lost film for decades, only to be rediscovered and reevaluated much later as a cult classic. Its severe initial reception and widespread banning highlight early cinema's struggle with challenging societal norms and depicting unconventional subjects. I Spit on Your Grave. I Spit on Your Grave, originally titled Day of the Woman, is a 1978 American exploitation horror film written and directed by Mayer Zarchi. The film tells the story of Jennifer Hills, a young writer who is subjected to a brutal assault by a group of men and then exacts a prolonged and violent revenge on her attackers. The film's graphic and extended depiction of the initial assault, followed by the equally brutal and explicit scenes of retaliation, ignited a firestorm of controversy. It became one of the most notorious video nasties in the United Kingdom during the 1980s, a list of films deemed obscene and prosecuted under the Obscene Publications Act. The film was banned outright in many countries, including Germany, Ireland, Norway, and Iceland, and faced significant censorship and distribution challenges globally. Critics were sharply divided, with some condemning it as purely exploitative and misogynistic, while others argued it was a powerful, albeit disturbing, feminist statement about female empowerment and retribution against male violence. Its unrelenting depiction of extreme acts and the subsequent controversial legal and ethical debates surrounding its content ensured its status as one of the most banned and heavily scrutinized films in cinematic history, profoundly influencing discussions about violence in media. The Last Temptation of Christ, a 1988 American epic drama film directed by Martin Scorsese, is an adaptation of Nikos Kazantzakis' 1955 novel. The film presents a highly controversial interpretation of the life of Jesus, focusing on his internal struggles and temptations, including a depiction of him imagining a normal human life, complete with marriage and children, while on the cross. This imaginative portrayal, which diverged significantly from traditional biblical narratives and theological interpretations, led to widespread outrage and condemnation from numerous Christian fundamentalist and conservative groups globally. These groups accused the film of blasphemy and organized protests, boycotts, and even acts of violence, such as the firebombing of a Parisian cinema screening the film. Consequently, the film was banned in many countries, including Greece, Turkey, Mexico, Argentina, and the Philippines, with some bans lasting for decades. Even in countries where it was released, it faced significant censorship and protests. The controversy surrounding The Last Temptation of Christ underscored the ongoing tension between artistic freedom and religious sensibilities, illustrating how a creative interpretation of sacred figures can lead to intense social and political backlash and widespread prohibition. The Exorcist. The Exorcist, a 1973 American supernatural horror film directed by William Friedkin based on William Peter Blatty's novel, became a cultural phenomenon and ignited significant controversy upon its release. The film tells the story of a young girl who becomes possessed by a demonic entity and her mother's desperate attempts to save her through two Catholic priests performing an exorcism. Its shocking depictions of demonic possession, including scenes of the girl's grotesque physical transformation, unsettling language, and disturbing acts, deeply unnerved audiences. Reports of viewers fainting, vomiting, and experiencing psychological distress during screenings were widespread. The film's theological themes and graphic horror pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable in mainstream cinema, leading to calls for its censorship. In the United Kingdom, The Exorcist was initially heavily cut for its theatrical release and later banned for home video distribution by the British Board of Film Classification, BBFC, in 1988, not due to obscenity, but concerns over its psychological impact on vulnerable individuals and fears of copycat behavior. It remained effectively banned on video for over a decade, only being fully released in 1990. Similar restrictions or public outcry occurred in other parts of the world. highlighting the profound and unsettling effect the film had on audiences and censors alike. Caligula? Caligula, a 1970 Italian-American historical drama film, is infamous for its explicit content and tumultuous production. Produced by Penthouse magazine founder Bob Gauchion and directed by Tinto Brass, with Gore Vidal contributing to the screenplay, the film purports to tell the story of the decadent and tyrannical Roman Emperor Caligula. It features prominent actors like Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, and Peter O'Toole. However, during post-production, Guccione added unsimulated scenes without Brass's consent, transforming the film into a work that blurred the lines between mainstream cinema and adult entertainment. The film's graphic and unsimulated acts, combined with its depictions of extreme violence and political machinations, immediately made it a subject of intense controversy and censorship worldwide. It was universally condemned by critics and banned outright in many countries, including Canada, South Africa, and parts of the United States. In countries where it was released, it often underwent severe cuts to remove the most explicit sequences, or was distributed in adult-only theaters. The film's production infamy, its graphic content, and its subsequent widespread prohibition cemented its status as one of the most censored and debated films in cinematic history, a stark example of how explicit content can lead to broad condemnation and restriction. Pink Flamingos. Pink Flamingos, a 1972 American transgressive comedy film written, produced, and directed by John Waters, is an iconic work of underground cinema and a notorious cult classic. The film stars Divine as Babs Johnson, who lives in a trailer with her eccentric family and proudly holds the title of the filthiest person alive. The plot revolves around Babs's efforts to defend her title against a jealous rival couple. Waters' intention was to create a deliberately provocative and outrageous film that challenged conventional notions of taste, decency, and morality. The film features numerous scenes designed to shock, including explicit and unsimulated acts, grotesque imagery, and extreme bodily functions. Upon its initial release, Pink Flamingos was immediately labeled obscene and faced severe censorship and outright bans across the United States and internationally. It was notably banned in countries like Canada and Australia and faced significant legal battles regarding its exhibition due to its extreme content. Despite, or perhaps because of, its controversies, it gained a devoted following and became a midnight movie staple. The film's enduring notoriety and widespread bans highlight its aggressive challenge to societal norms and its place as a quintessential example of transgressive filmmaking that deliberately pushed every boundary. Natural Born Killers. Natural Born Killers, a 1994 American satirical crime film directed by Oliver Stone, is known for its hyper-stylized violence and critique of media sensationalism. The film follows Mickey and Mallory Knox, two serial murderers who become celebrity anti-heroes glorified by the mass media. Shot in various film stocks and visual styles, Stone intended the film as a dark satire on how the media fetishizes violence and crime. However, its graphic and pervasive depictions of violence, combined with its controversial message, led to significant public outcry and accusations that it glorified rather than critiqued violence. The film was linked by some media outlets and politicians to real-life violent acts, particularly after it was cited by perpetrators in several high-profile cases. As a result of these controversies and its explicit content, Natural Born Killers faced extensive censorship globally. It was banned in Ireland and heavily cut in countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, and Germany to remove or reduce its most graphic sequences. The film's uncut version received an NC-17 rating in the United States, limiting its distribution. The intense debate surrounding Natural Born Killers underscores the contentious relationship between media depiction, violence, and social responsibility, making it a frequently censored and discussed film. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a 1974 American independent horror film directed by Tobe Hooper, became notorious for its visceral and disturbing content. The film follows a group of friends who fall victim to a family of cannibals while visiting their grandfather's old farmhouse in rural Texas. Marketed as being based on a true story to heighten its impact, though it only took loose inspiration from serial killer Ed Gein, the film depicted a relentless and brutal assault without showing excessive graphic content on screen. Instead, it relied heavily on implied violence, disturbing sound design, and intense atmosphere to create its horror. Despite the lack of overt gore compared to many of its successors, the film's gritty realism, disturbing themes, and relentless terror led to it being banned or heavily censored in numerous countries. It was notably banned in the United Kingdom, Brazil, Finland, and West Germany for many years due to its extreme psychological impact and disturbing subject matter, with authorities citing concerns about its potential to desensitize viewers to violence. Its low-budget, raw style significantly influenced the horror genre, particularly the slasher subgenre, but its controversial content ensured it remained restricted and subject to bans for decades, highlighting the differing cultural tolerances for cinematic horror.